The first time the little girl's feet touched the sunlit hospital floor. Nothing happened, and yet everything did. The room held its breath as if the morning itself had paused. Outside the tall windows, a bright day carried the sounds of traffic and birds and life moving on, but inside, a single father stood with trembling hands and a heart that had been broken and rebuilt too many times to count. He had been told miracles were expensive, rare, and reserved for people with names engraved on buildings. He had been told to accept limits. He had been told to prepare for a lifetime of stillness. And yet, on that day, with daylight pouring in like hope refusing to be quiet, he believed in something no billionaire doctor could prescribe. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet miracles that happen in plain daylight, take a moment right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Ryan Cole had never planned to become a single father, but life did not ask for permission when it took his wife, Maribel, in a sudden accident 3 years earlier. He remembered the way the sun had looked that day, too bright for the news it carried, and how everything after felt slightly unreal, like a long afternoon that refused to end. Their daughter, Ira, had been 5 then, a child who ran everywhere, who believed the world was a place that met you halfway if you moved fast enough. The accident that followed months later, the one that injured Ira's spine during a routine school trip, felt like a cruel echo of loss. By the time she woke in the hospital, daylight streaming through the windows just as it did now, she could not feel her legs. Doctors arrived in waves, some local, some famous enough that their names were spoken with reverence. Tests were run, scans were reviewed, opinions were exchanged in quiet hallways filled with sunlight and polished floors. The verdict settled in with clinical calm: severe damage, uncertain recovery, low probability of walking again. Wealthy donors stepped in, specialists flew in, therapies were tried, machines hummed, promises were made with careful language. Months passed in bright rooms that smelled of antiseptic and hope diluted by caution. Each failure landed like a soft but heavy weight on Ryan's chest. Maribel's mother, Celeste, watched it all with a grief that had nowhere to go. She loved her granddaughter with a fierce devotion, and she loved Ryan too, but there were days when her eyes held a quiet accusation. She believed money could bend reality if enough of it was applied. When billionaire-backed clinics offered experimental programs, she urged Ryan to accept them all. When they failed, she looked at him as if he had chosen wrong, as if somewhere there was a better door he had not opened. Ryan worked days at a community recreation center, a place filled with daylight and laughter, where children learned to swim and seniors learned to trust their joints again. He cleaned pools, fixed lockers, coached basic fitness classes, and absorbed the rhythm of bodies in motion. He learned without realizing it, watching how muscles responded to patience, how balance returned when fear was met gently, how progress hid in the smallest repetitions. Every afternoon, he wheeled Ira outside, letting the sun warm her face, letting her feel included in the moving world. He spoke to her about effort, not outcomes. He spoke about showing up. He spoke about how bodies listen when you listen to them first. The billionaire doctors spoke in metrics and probabilities. Ryan spoke in time and care. When the funding ran dry and the appointments slowed, he refused to let the days turn gray. He brought therapy home, improvising with what he had. In the brightest room of their small apartment, he laid out mats near the window. He created routines that followed the sun, mornings for stretching when the light was soft, afternoons for strength when the day felt strongest. He used warm water and towels, music that carried a steady beat, and games that made effort feel like play. He celebrated every tiny shift as if it were a sunrise. Celeste doubted him. She had watched renowned specialists fail, and this felt like denial dressed as devotion. There were arguments in daylight kitchens, tears spilled over coffee that had gone cold. She worried that hope would break Ira's heart twice. Ryan listened, absorbing the fear beneath the criticism, but he did not stop. He believed that movement was a conversation, and he was willing to speak all day if it meant Ira might one day answer. The first change was almost invisible. A slight tension when Ira concentrated, a warmth where numbness had been. Ryan noticed because he was always watching. He adjusted routines, added rest, then added effort again. He learned to wait. He learned to trust the day. Weeks turned into months, months into a year, and daylight kept showing up, generous and ordinary. The world did not announce the progress. It whispered it. Celeste saw it one afternoon when the sun was high and the apartment glowed. Ira, focused and determined, shifted her weight with a steadiness that had not been there before. Her legs trembled, not from weakness alone but from something waking up. Celeste's breath caught, and for the first time since the accident, she did not argue. She sat in the light and watched. A local therapist, invited out of courtesy, observed quietly and took notes. She did not promise miracles, but she acknowledged something important: consistency, care, and the nervous system's stubborn capacity to adapt. She suggested refinements rather than replacements. She told Ryan he was doing something right. The day everything changed did not come with thunder or headlines. It came with clear skies and the hum of a normal morning. At the hospital's rehabilitation wing, sunlight spilled across the floor, drawing a path from the doorway to the window. Ira stood supported by parallel bars, her face set with determination. Ryan steadied her, careful not to carry her weight, careful not to steal the moment. Celeste watched from a chair, her hands folded tight, her eyes shining with fear and hope in equal measure. Ira shifted forward, her foot pressed down. The room seemed to lean in. Then the other foot followed, uncertain but real. It was not graceful. It was not fast. It was everything. Celeste rose without realizing it, her body answering before her mind could keep up. When Ira took a second step, the dam broke. Celeste collapsed into tears, the kind that come from holding grief too long, from believing the worst because it felt safer than hoping. The daylight wrapped the scene in warmth, as if the sun itself had decided to bear witness. Doctors reviewed the progress later, their language careful, their surprise contained. They spoke of atypical recoveries and neuroplasticity, of variables and unknowns. None of it captured what had happened. A single father had shown up every day. A child had trusted him. A grandmother had learned to believe again. Wealth had opened doors, but love had carried them through. Recovery did not end that day. It continued, patient and demanding, filled with setbacks and victories that came measured in inches. Ira learned to walk with aids, then without, under the same honest sun that had watched her try and fail and try again. Ryan kept his routines, adjusting as strength grew. He returned to work each day tired and grateful, knowing that the world did not owe him anything and had given him something priceless anyway. Celeste changed too. She apologized without making a spectacle of it, in the quiet of an afternoon. She began volunteering at the recreation center, watching other families struggle and learn. She told them about consistency. She told them about believing in what you can do with your hands and your time. If this story has reached you, if it has stirred something quiet and hopeful inside your chest, please take a moment now to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps more people find stories that remind us what persistence and love can do. Before we reach the end, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with the word hope. If you believe small, patient acts can change lives. Your comments matter more than you know. On a bright day not long after, Ryan watched Ira walk across the recreation center floor, sunlight catching in her hair. Children laughed nearby. Life moved. He did not think about billionaire doctors or failed promises. He thought about mornings by the window, about hands learning to trust again, about the courage it takes to keep going when no one is watching. The world had not bent to money. It had responded to care. And as the day carried on, ordinary and beautiful, Ryan understood something simple and profound. Miracles do not always arrive with sirens or signatures. Sometimes they arrive quietly, in the middle of the day, when a parent refuses to give up and a child learns, step by step, that the ground will meet them.